Luxury brands don't sell products, they sell mind games. In this video, I'm exposing exactly how companies like Louis Vuitton and Hermès trick your brain into spending thousands on items that cost almost nothing to make. These psychological tactics work so well that you probably don't even realize you're being manipulated. After studying the world's top luxury brands, I've realized that they're not selling craftsmanship or quality. They're selling psychological triggers to bypass your brain's rational thinking. Today I'm breaking down the exact psychological techniques that luxury brands use to brainwash you. You'll learn about manufactured scarcity, information asymmetry, tribe triggering, and other methods that these brands use to get people waiting years just for the privilege of overpaying on a handbag. And the best part, I'll show you how to apply these very same tactics to your own brand to dramatically increase your profits. Whether you're running a small brand or an established one, these principles will transform how you market and sell. Let's dive into it. The number one element is manufactured scarcity. This is how the brands increase perceived value all the way from the website to the salespeople in the very stores. It's all about neuroscience and marketing. So if you look at this little graph right here, right, we can see we have these different elements. We have exclusivity, which is here on the top. We have mass accessibility, which obviously goes down because all of these luxury brands decrease the accessibility for the masses. We have production, distribution, and price all the way up, and this creates obviously a dream. And then we have here VIP treatment, and here this is an example of Patek Philippe where they show an ad and the man, passing the watch down to his kid, creates a dream, as we've just highlighted here. VIP experience because it's a high-end product, and this just is all the way down to increasing perceived value, and that is how they do it. They decrease the max accessibility, they increase the prices, the distribution, and they create a dream. Now, to tie this back to luxury brands, we can see that Louis Vuitton very much relies heavily on limited stock. When you go into a store, you'll oftentimes hear that they don't have your desired item in stock. Maybe they have it in another store, blah, 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 blah. And if they actually do have it in stock, they'll tell you that it's the last piece available, but it's obviously fake. And Hermès is another good example of this. They allegedly produce more than 200,000 Birkin bags a year while maintaining the illusion that they're nearly impossible to get. You have to purchase multiple bags and items from Hermès before it can even get considered for a Kelly or Birkin. Even then, you only get allocated 3 to 5 of these bags per year, right? It's crazy. And then we have Rolex. We all know that it's hard to get a Rolex from the authorized dealer. There's long waiting list, exhibition only when you go into the store. This, once again, is to increase the perceived value, even though there's plenty of stock available. We all know that you could buy the watch right away, right? We all know they have a lot of stock available. We all know it's even public how many watches Rolex produces, right? So all of these things, what do they have in common? Manufactured scarcity and not too much mass accessibility and high prices, low distribution, and very much so limited production, or at least so they say. So this is all how a basic t-shirt suddenly gets up to 35% more desirable. We all know that Louis Vuitton shirt worth $900 simply just because it's a Louis Vuitton logo on it, right? It creates FOMO and causes the consumers to make impulse purchases rather than rational decisions. Luxury brands appeal 80% to the emotional side of the brain and only 20% to the logical senses, right? So people don't really think about the money they're spending, right? It's not that they don't care, but they're in the moment, they get the FOMO, and therefore they just spend their money, right? Not even logically, but just emotionally. You'll notice that prices are often hidden or products are displayed in abnormal sizes to force staff interactions. It allows the staff to find the correct size for the customers and therefore apply the sale tactics. These staff members are trained to give vague, non-committable answers, right? So they just lure you into making your own emotional commitment to the purchase, right? And for this to happen, they need to be interacted with the customer because they cannot do that themselves, right? The customer won't go ahead and apply those tactics to themselves. No, they force interactions to make this happen. Prada really puts a lot of focus on this, right? Because they know that as soon as you've said how much, you've committed to the purchase journey, right? They have you locked in. As soon as you've actually asked how much, or when can I get it, or how much is there left of my size, blah 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 blah, they have you hooked and they know that. So there's essentially 2 steps that happens when you walk into the store. You'll oftentimes, first of all, experience waiting time in some shape or form, whether that is waiting in queue or waiting for your personal shopper, which perfectly ties into step 2, the personal shopper. To create and maintain the false VIP treatment, you'll often be assigned with a dedicated member of staff. This makes you feel important. Both of these experiences increase the psychological commitment to actually making a purchase. Now, what happens here is that while you're waiting for your assigned personal shopper, you'll process environment of the store while waiting, which is primed to make you go for larger purchases, right? This ties into, the lighting. It ties into how they are displaying the products, etc., etc. All of this while creating the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested time and therefore you feel compelled to buy something. You need to make your time worth it. And research shows that customers who wait longer spend up to 23% more on average, right? So while you're in these rooms, you can see that there's all of these places deciding for sitting and waiting for them to bring out items. For example, when you ask for your size, it takes such a long time for you to actually get your size, because while you're waiting, you'll go around and look for the products. You'll go around and find more, etc., etc. It's all a marketing play. So this essentially all ties back to one simple thing. Humans are hardwired to seek status and belonging within tribes. These brands do not sell products, they sell access to exclusive social groups. You cannot name a single designer brand that have not associated themselves with celebrities. The reason behind this is that they want the consumers to connect the celeb status to the product, right? So it's not actually connecting the product to the very person, no. It's connecting the product to the status, right? So let's look at it like this. We all know that there's different statuses in society. Now, let's say that this small group of people are the celebrities, the top 1% celebrities, right? And here we have the people that want to be like them. And then we have Louis Vuitton that puts their products on these people right here. LV puts their products on these people, and then they market these celebrities to the majority. And then these people start to feel like, oh, I want to be more like the minority and have the status. And that happens when they start associating the products with the celebrities' statuses. Now, all of this just goes to show that the logos start to represent the high-end status, and or at least what they want to represent, because obviously it's not necessarily that these celebrities actually you use these products, or you don't very often see them in these designer brands in the public, or they don't necessarily buy them, but still they just get sponsored by them to create that false sense of high-end and status. So it's just for maximum status signaling, not only of who they are, but of who they want to be like, right? And all of this is quite literally just hacking into your perception without you knowing it, right? What you see with your eyes is your perception, and your perception can be manipulated very, very easily, right? They do this by tapping into all of your 5 senses to create a perception of value that far exceeds the actual material cost, right? They do this by using scents, as we just talked about, celebrities, lighting, and even calculated product weights to make them feel more valuable. When you lift something that is a bit heavier, you feel like it's more valuable. When you smell something that you associate with high quality, obviously you feel like it's more valuable. When it looks good in the lighting, it's more valuable. It's all simple, specific marketing tricks to manipulate your very emotional side of the brain. Now, a great example of this is BMW and Rolls-Royce, right? It is basically the same engine, the same core tech, and the same car. We know that it's owned by the same car group, and the same manufacturer produced these two vehicles, but pricing is vastly different based on perception triggers. Same for Lamborghini and Audi, right? We all know the Lamborghini Urus. It's basically the same car as the Audi RS-Q8, right? Even this simply comes from signaling the different statuses and tying different emotions to these two brands, even though it's the very same. Studies even show that consumers rate identical wine as tasting better when told that it costs more. Now, we have 2 examples right here, right? We have the Gucci emblem made in Italy. We have the Louis Vuitton in Paris made in Italy, right? Once again, made in Paris, crafted in Italy, craftsmanship, artisanal, heritage, all of these terms create a perception of value disconnected from production cost, even though most of these items are mass produced in the same factories as mid-market items. Now, what we see here is that we obviously have the ethics, which is how ethical is this, right? How ethical are these tactics, right? And some may say, go ahead and argue and say that, oh, it's actually not that ethical and you should maybe actually reconsider your choices about implementing these things. While the brands often use these tactics in manipulative ways, the psychological principles can be applied ethically, right? Even though some people may say it's actually not really ethical, it's more so just focused on profit more than ethics. There's different ways that you can actually go ahead and do this for yourself, right? One is creating genuine scarcity through limited production, because that can maintain quality and exclusivity, right? And you can actually do that. It doesn't just have to be lying or manipulated. It can actually be true for your very case. Then there's transparent pricing. It can still be incorporated and tiered into options that create psychological anchoring. Then we have authentic storytelling, which builds emotional connections without actually manipulating. And then we have building a community around your brand, which satisfies the tribal instinct without exploration or exploration. So actually just, appealing to your community in an ethical way and in a authentic way without, signaling status that is actually fake. Then we have sensor experiences that can enhance customer satisfaction without the deception. This obviously come into physical stores or how you package your things, etc., etc. And then, it's just a way of also you can charge premium prices while delivering genuine value and transparency, right? All of these ways are ways that these principles can be implemented, right? It's not easy, but it can definitely be done. And this is a very good example of how you can do it yourself, tapping into these crazy psychological manipulations which these brands apply in your own ethical way. Now you know the exact psychological tactics luxury brands use to make billions. These aren't just random marketing strategies. They're scientifically proven triggers that create desire and drive action at a subconscious level. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video valuable and you want my help to take your fashion or clothing brand to the next level, click the first link in the description to apply to work one-on-one with me.